story as old as time. I do the power rankings. I say at the end I can go eat, and then I realize Triad Wars is happening. And I can't go eat. I gotta watch. So we got Deli vs. Smokes. This is a no combo rule set. Both players selected one rare. Um, the rare, because the rule set is the total value of cards in the hand, this is same plus plus one, no combo. Total value of cards in the hand. There's some other stipulations, but this is the really important one. Levels 3 through 5 must add up to 90, which means 7632 is your average card. And you can see what both players did about this. Smokes went for 6763 and 7741. 6763 costs 3 over the average card, or 4. It costs 22, and the average card has to cost 18. 7741 costs 19. That's 1 over. So he's 5 over. So we use 6632, which costs 1 less. Now he's 4 over. 6721 costs 2 less. Now he's 2 over. And 11A4 costs 2 less. I'm going to pause a sec to clear my throat. AA41 or 11A4 costs 2 less, making him on. But you can see he went for 3 cards that were under to allow himself to get the 2 cards over. I was initially looking at this and thinking, why would he go for 11A4? Why wouldn't, you have to use at least one card level 3 through 5. Why use a level 5 rare when level 3 rares that are cheaper? This costs 16, you can get a rare for 13. Why do that when cheaper ones are available? And I think I stand by that. That 6712 could be a 7632. On the other hand, he needed a level 4, and maybe that rare is a level 4. Actually, does he have a level 4 in the hand? Well, we got no time to figure that out. Deli, on the other hand, has gone with a 6663, which he clearly started in 6. Smokes took safety, capturing it from 9, and Deli has taken safety, recapturing it from 3. He had to capture both ways. I think, in general, this is not a good starter. Deli said he was not happy with his hand. And if this is the starter you end up with, you should be unhappy with your hand in no combo. In combo, there's lots of reasons this can work. But in no combo, Smokes can play 5. And once Smokes captures 5, he is locked in 2 cards, and Deli has locked in 1. Further, the 9112 is still in Deli's hand, right? So he's going to be down 6-4. No combo is a game of all lock-ins, and have a card that's really difficult to find good use for. So after this starter, it is clearly Smokes playing for the win. Now, he has picked up something else. That hints he's going for the L. What has he picked up? The 3266? I think you just want to go in 5 here. I mean, I'm not really calculating. Maybe you run out of right power. 6763 is all you have to the right. But the hand was very weak to the right to the start, right? It has 2 7s, but then it goes 2-1-1. I think you usually, in no combo here, want to go 5. Now, his point is, if Deli goes in 2, he's created a threat in 2. Okay, we can see the point here. So the reason I was saying that was so clear was because non-combo is very much a game of lock-ins. There is a little room to maneuver with creative moves like this, but it's not a lot. It's really like you see the lock-in, you grab it. But Smokes has a clever idea here. Anything Deli plays in 2, Smokes goes in 5, and he will capture 2 cards. The score is currently 5-5. Deli will go up 6-4. Smokes will then go up 6-4, and Deli will not have anything in 8. Now, depending on what Deli's last card is there, if Deli does choose to go in 8, Smokes will win, no matter which card he retains. If Smokes keeps 3, 6, 7, 4, or Deli keeps 3, 6, 7, 4, Smokes goes 6, 7, 6, 3, and 4. If Deli keeps 7, 7, 4, 1, then 6, 7, 6, 3 goes in 7. And either way, that wins. So Deli probably goes in 4 at the end of that line, sticks something in 4. needs to use 9112 up. Does that go in 2 or does that go in 4? That probably goes in 4, and then 7714 sweeps the bottom row and gets a tie. So I think 3674 in 2 should tie. 3674 in 2. Smokes will use 6712 in 5. Smokes leads 6-4. Deli has locked in cards in 1 and 3. Deli goes 9112 in 4. Doesn't flip anything, but it doesn't need to because 7714 does have the needed captures at the end. Because the 4-1 snags the 7s to the right. So I think that's a path to a tie. Now, there were probably paths to a tie after 6, 7, 1, 2, and 5, and this is certainly creative and fun, so I'm glad Smokes played it. I don't think I'd have looked at this. I think I'd have just played the move in 5, and this might be more pressure. I'm not sure. Definitely a fun creative move, and one I've seen Smokes make a few times, this move type. It's interesting idea. Now, the reason I don't think Deli should start 9-1-2 and 2, even though it gets a worse card out of his hand, is then he probably never flips 4. If he wants to flip 4 after that, he has to use 7714, and that needs to be his sweeper here. That has to be a sweeper. You can also go in 5. 5 is a legal move. I don't really see. I think 3674 and 5 is trying to do a little much. It does set up 9112 and 2, but you're never going to get to occupy 2. And it does set up 7714 and 8, but then 9112 is your final card, and you're not too happy about that. So if 36745, say Adamantoise 2, or sorry, say 67122, it's important to flip 3. You're down 7-3. You play 7714 8, and you lose to Behemoth in 7. So you don't want to do that way. I think you have to go 2. I think 36742 does it. I haven't checked if Behemoth 5 beats you, but it shouldn't. No, it doesn't. You still go tonberry and 4. So I think the path here is 2 then 4, but this is tough. And Deli goes for something else, which might work, but obviously looks highly dangerous. He still wants 7741 to sweep the bottom. Right? So what's the idea? The main line here is 6712 and 2 goes up 6-4. Deli can play 3674 and 5, making it 5-5, and 7714 does sweep the bottom. Probably Ada and 8, and then 7714 takes for a tie. Yeah, there's no if Smokes wants to start an 8, then Deli can go 7, and there's no double capture where 3674 doesn't have a capture back, so you don't lose there. Or triple capture, if you went like Ada and 8. Yeah, and that's what we see. We see the line I said: Smokes goes 2, Deli goes 5, and Smokes goes 8. A really nice start for Smokes. I think he clearly got to press. This might be a second turn favored set. We have seen second turn dominating so far. This is the third game played on the set, and the first 2 were both won by second turn. And this game, second turn, also got clear advantage with straightforward play, right? Going safely in 9. There was a nice option to go in 5. Smokes went creative, went in 1. Deli, his time ran down, which for some players would be an indicator he was really worried. With Deli, you never know. His time's going to run down on lots of moves to quite low. Finds a creative tie, and that worked nicely. I would have gone for a different tie, but I think this speaks to a difference in style, right? I went to they have set up against this move, So if I do that move, I know their response. Can I force a tie in that variation? Deli went with a different version, but we both had the same end core concept of 7714 sweeps the bottom row, and that we could trade kind of cards on the top and then get just enough captures at the end with 7714. He just ordered it the opposite way. I went in 2 first, he went in 4 first. But you can see my instinct to play something more forcing. 2 is more forcing. The opponent has to go 5 to be able to calculate out to the end. And you can see Deli's preference of, I need tonberry out of my hand. He ordered it the way where the worst card gets out of his hand the most quickly, while also being quite forcing. But I think my way focuses more on being forcing, and Deli's way focuses more on, this card needs to be gone. I need to have my better cards remaining. And I think that speaks to both our strengths, things we do well. But a really nice first game by Smokes, and Dudley's going to have to find better starters than that. The starter ended up holding, and maybe second turn is a big enough problem that holding is a good result. But I think starters like that, where you're just essentially down 2 cards locked into 1 early on, are not the answer here. I'm gonna input the game and then we'll check if they're playing again. But we saw 66366. Incidentally, using a level 5 first here, I don't think is that big a problem. I think the cards are close enough in power that aside, if you really went in for a 6763 or 6762, you probably try to hold that to the end. Um, you know, a 6663, sure, that's going to be a better sweeper. A 7714, as we saw, can be a really good sweeper. But you don't. I mean, you want to get the rares out of your hand. I think everything else is not going to make massive differences. It's going to be very slight edges. So 7714 went, or 7147 went 9. Got the card wrong. 41573, 32661, 91124, 67122, 36745, 11848, 77147, and the remaining card was 6763, the card after my own heart, and we'll go see if they're playing again. See a game up. Alright, may as well input what the hands were. 6636, 4157, 9112, 3674, 7714, first 7147, 3266, 6712, 1184, 6763. I did not seriously consider running 6636 or a 6663. I think they're pretty good sweepers, obviously. But I think I'd almost always rather a 6762 type for the same cost. Now, one thing interesting is, are 6s or 7s a bigger problem? And I think for the hands I'd build, it's pretty balanced, maybe a slight majority of 6s. In my game, for instance, I can look. There were 4 7s in my hand, and there were 7 6s. In my opponent Dalamar's hand, there were 5 6s, so 12 6s total in the game, and 5 7s, so 12 to 9. In the next game that was played, Vid Versace, there were a total of 13 6s and 7 7s. So that was even, mine was a 12 to 9. That was 13 to 7. So we're seeing more 6s than 7s. Now, part of that is because that matchup saw 6663 and my matchup didn't. So you were going to see more 6s there and fewer 7s. But I think we're seeing more 6s than 7s, which leads me to think 6267 is maybe the best card available. Maybe. In this last matchup, we saw Delial versus Smokes. There were a total. Delial only used 4 6s in his hand, So it makes sense that he'd use 6636 because he was the lowest six user we've seen. And so it makes sense that he wouldn't target sixes because he was aiming at sevens and using sevens. Despite using a 6636, he still had the fewest sixes we've seen. And Smokes used five sixes. So this matchup only has nine sixes in it. A lot fewer than the ones we've seen before. And on the seven front, it had eight, which is also relatively, or that's middle of the pack. But a low six count and a similar seven count. But if I'm saying that so far this is the lowest six count we've seen, and there were still slightly more sixes than sevens, it's possible sixes are more important to target. But of course, sevens inherently target sixes, and sixes don't inherently target sevens. So a 6663 makes sense, right? That's definitely going to be better than a 6662, which sweeps sixes but is kind of dead versus sevens. But 6762 might be the sweet spot. Might not be. Now, they probably took a second to check hands. I'm gonna check the Discord on the side here. I close it when I watch stuff so I don't get distracted. Maybe we should go to another video, but we haven't been going that long, so we'll try to catch the second game in the same video. Interesting first game. It is hard to start on this rule set. When I made my hands, I did not have starters in mind, and when I thought about trying to start with them, I was really unsure where to go. We've seen a side starter in every single game so far, and I think in every game it wasn't desirable. But there weren't obvious starter paths in any of them. One thing I did with some of my hands, and the hand I believe I ended up using, is I basically had five corners. This is something Slash does quite a lot, is you have five corner cards, one for each corner, and you have a double corner. And you are most likely to start either with a strong corner in your double corner or with a weak corner, one of the doubled corners in its weak corner, something really easy to take back. And on this set, because there are low level cards and rares, if Smokes was starting, he could have stuck Ada and 7, and that's probably a reasonable starter. So that might be a way to build hands in such a way that you have a starter. Is that you look around, you see if you have anything, and then you go from there. Actually, if we look at the chat, which I won't bring up, Smokes said, "Good game. Almost went to Ada and 7 on first turn just to try to stop the utter dominance 7714 had on the bottom row." But I think going safely in 9 made a lot of sense, and it did remove some bottom row squares. But you had to try to remove those, I guess, to try to win. So I guess probably my line in 5 is never going to have a serious chance to win either, because Deli just tries to make sure the top fills up, and so 7714 can sweep on the bottom. Yeah, that's a good point. And so I think Deli probably in less danger than I was saying, but I do think it was Deli that had to be careful that game. I think lock-ins are a very easy way on no combo rule sets to see who's ahead. Just who has more cards that are theirs, right? All right. Yeah, Deli thinks 5 just crushed him there. So there's a good chance 7714's power held, but there's a good chance it didn't. All right, there's some criticism of my power rankings. Uh, yeah, Deli says, note to self, 6 is an awful starter. Yeah, good note. I think side starters are just not the way to go in these no combo sets. If you are going to play a side starter, you have to build like Great Sephiroth. You have to have the neighboring squares covered. You cannot concede them. As soon as you concede the neighboring squares, especially with a 6 facing 5 instead of a 7, you're just giving so much ground. L's are really good for second turn and no combo. This is why when I first came over to playing open and playing combo rule sets, having been a no combo random player, I had a really good feel for not doing this, and I think it's just fundamentally a mistake. Um, and Deli was able to survive, but really unhappy with the first game. But that's important. You survive, you figure things out. Okay, what do we got this game? Smokes with a very balanced hand. He goes for I got the 7-6-3-2s everywhere. I have to use a level 3 and a 5. So my level 3 is going to be a 6-6-3-2. That affords me one extra point, which lets me get up to a 7-7-4-1. Ooh, interesting that they both have the same 7-7-4-1, because that's a card that's pretty good at controlling itself if the bottom row is left open. That could favor first turn. Deli has gone with the same hand. Deli has gone a little off the beaten path of what we've seen other players use with a 4-1-5-7 instead of the 6-6-3-2. Deli has shown some preference for them in the past. I'm not sure. I suspect 6-6-3-2 is a little better on this set, but it might be a better hand fit. And Deli's going to have to find a starter. Now, I think the starter you tend to want is just tonberry. I note if you put tonberry in one, every single one of your cards has the double capture. Your hand is not so unhappy facing the action there. Every card in your hand at least partially faces the action except for 3-6-7-4, but it leaves open squares where 7-7-1-4 or 6-6-3-6 are happy to beat a sweep. And your 3-6-7-4, while it is the weakest card in your hand, does have the recaptures in both squares. Now, I'm kind of down on using 3-6-7-4s because they're pretty costly, and I'm not sure they're that much better than 7-6-3-2s. But I know Deli really likes 7-6-4-3s, and I know he handles cards like 7-6-4-3s and 7-6-5-4s significantly better than I do, and better than like the average person does, obviously. Um, and so I feel less bad seeing it in his hand. I would be more critical seeing it in someone else's hand. Deli says he's tempted to go Tonberry in 6 this time. Now, he does have 3 and 9 controlled, right? As long as 6-6-3-6 stays in his hand, he has the squares controlled. Now, I'm going to close the that window because I don't want to be distracted by Discord, though it is interesting to hear the players' thoughts. Is there anything safe? Nah, there's not going to be anything safe. 7-6-3-2s are very powerful. Smokes is picking a hand much more similar to ones I'd pick. In fact, I picked a hand not quite identical to this, but very similar, swapping, turning around the 7-6-3-2s a little. I think it was a different set of 7-6-3-2s, but basically the same kind of. Ooh, but this isn't 4 corners on the 6-6-3-2. But similar 4 cards, except instead of the 2-6-6-3, I had an up-down card, but I happen to have that on the level 5. That was actually my favorite of the hands I made. It's not the one I ended up using. Smokes does have a double corner, and because it's not a rare, if he throws something like 2-6-6-3-9 at some point, he doesn't have the guaranteed recaptures, which he might with, something like Tonberry. So we know Delial was looking at Tonberry in 6, which is interesting, but because he needs a variety of cards to control 3 and 9, I think there's a chance but he does have a real threat to go in 9 after that. 9 becomes a very good square for Deli. One thought I had was if Deli goes Tonberry in 6, and Smokes goes Dinosaur in 9, the only capture of that is 7-7-1-4 in 8, which doesn't set up 5. So if Smokes could then play something safely in 7, like 7-7-1-4, they'd have these 2 cards safe and they'd be up 2 cards safe to 1. However, Deli can take that with 3-6-7-4, showing one of the advantages of having a 4 next to your 7. So there is no safety for Smokes. Now, similar idea. You can go 3 with a 7 out, which forces 3-6-7-4 in 2. Again, that doesn't set up 5, so if you could go safely in 1, you have 1 and 2 safe. However, 7714 controls anything in 1. So it turns out that Deli's 7s touching his 4s, both being left up or left down, makes a starter in 6 make more sense because it controls the space on the left row in a way that directly relates to forced action from the starter in 6. If you are a side starter, I might have said something really deep and really relevant to you to think about. I might not have, but I sure might have. Um, so maybe worth thinking about. Now, where else could Smokes play? But also, those 7 and 4 combinations, just in general, where are the opponents likely to go after a side starter? If there's safety in 3 or 9, or they can kind of force safety, those squares are likely. If not, people are likely to go in 1 and 7. It turns out that having the 7-7-1-4 with the 7-4 up guaranteeing captures there, and the 3-6-7-4 with the 7-4 down, is relevant to both of these variations, right? It is relevant to any card in 1 or 7, they make sure you have captures, and it is relevant to any card in 3 or 9, it makes sure in this kind of force sequence you might have played. Now, once again, Smokes goes creative. I think there is something Smokes is possibly better at doing than not just anyone currently on the site, but like anyone I can think of, is Smokes creates winning chances. Not always for him, sometimes for you, but Smokes creates winning chances. You look at his games versus um, Seto in, I want to say Triad Wars 14, and he lost that matchup, but that was so swingy, and he had really phenomenal chances to win against a great player. There was a game he was winning and a game he was almost like I think would have won had he made a different move. It wasn't a forced win, but the tie was very very difficult to find. Um, so there were easily 2 games out of 3 he could have just won, or 2 games out of 2. They played 2 games against Seto. He creates winning chances. He finds paths to create winning chances. This also makes him a really valuable clan player because if he needs to tie, he can play a tighter game. But if you need someone to win, he will create more winning chances than just about anyone else. He may lose that game, right? But he's going to play in a way that makes it complex. I was thinking this rule set is has reasonable margin for error, right? No combo has larger margin for error than combo. And I was thinking it's possible, it depends how the numbers work out, but there are some versions of similar rule sets to this where, at least from my experience, I've played, there was a level 2 match I had versus Koner once where we played 3 or 4 times, and I thought I was pressing in a couple of the games, but there are just not enough moves in the game for you to build up a big enough advantage against a really good player. And I thought, I don't know if I can ever win this. And we ended up, Koner disappeared and then got the activity win. And, I got frustrated by that. But I think it was not a rule set either of us were going to win. Level 2 impacted this. Level 2 made some effects. But I was getting, in 2 of the games we played, I got about as big an advantage as I thought possible, right? I thought, from the early moves of the game, I did as well as I could do, and Koner again is a phenomenal player. For a phenomenal player, Koner got in about as much trouble as he could get, and I wasn't able to win. He was able to find the ties, and I thought if those positions I'm not winning, and I've gotten multiple of them, I probably can't ever win this matchup. Incidentally, I think that's why I got the activity loss was because I had said in a chat with a mod in it that I don't think I can win this matchup, and I think they misinterpreted it as I think I'm going to lose this matchup, which is not what I meant. What I meant was I don't think this rule set is winnable for either of us, and I have come as close as I'm going to come to winning, and I wasn't that close. Koner is too good to lose on this set. I previously had a no combo open set against Great Sephiroth in Selfie, and similarly, we played a bunch of games, and that one was closer. There were no serious advantages anywhere. it was a simple enough set, and we were both good enough at it that I think no one was ever going to win, and we agreed to go to coin flips. Now, this set is more complex than those were. There's a bigger variety in levels and cards available to use, and cards are more likely to be powerful in three directions, making it easier to set up a sweeper rather than stuff like level 2, where it's just really hard for a card to be good in three directions. It's really hard for a card to take more than one or two cards. So I think this is a set with more room to play, but I looked specifically at this matchup and thought if this rule set turns out does not have much room to play, then both these players are too good to lose. But I think that's wrong because not because Smokes isn't really good, but because Smokes is better at stopping that from being true than anyone else. Okay. So yeah, Deli had safety in 9. I did mention Deli's big threat is in 9. Deli takes it. However, Smokes created a threat in 1. And Deli is fairly weak going left now. So Smokes' idea, I suspect, is Sand Golem in 1. When Deli probably, I mean, this he might play this because it might be like a tie and he might be trying to tie there. Deli doesn't, I think, get any advantage at least with 7-7-1-4 and 7 because of 7-7-1-4 and 8 when Smoke's cards are safe and he has decent threat on a bunch of Deli's cards, right? 7-2-3-6 has a same in 5 or a plus wall in 3. I think 3672 is in 1 is what Smokes wants to be doing here. Again, I'm getting the inkling that first turn is a bad spot to be. Deli's left weakness is tough, but probably not losing or anything here. And maybe I'm being silly. Maybe I'm being silly. Maybe 3672 and 1. Deli wants to go in 5. Deli wants to go in 5 when again, with the 6 out of Smokes' hand, Deli sweeps the bottom row with 7-7-1-4. He's going to put up a plus there. So what Smokes should probably do there depends what card's left, but that could easily be very dangerous. So Smokes has picked up 3672. I think he's going in 1. I am wrong. Well, now this looks. So he's getting rid of the bottom. He's again annoyed by 7-7-1-4. But Deli has a lot of stuff to attack here. Now the point is, Smokes controls 8. But does he? Yes. Or no. He can't take a 6 up, can he? But if 6636 goes in 8, Smokes the safety in 1. Yeah, and that's fine. Okay. So Smokes holds against 8, but does he hold against 1? Well, 1 has to have a 6 or 7 facing out. If it is a 7 facing out, then it didn't capture. And now Smokes can go 8, and Deli's going to have a lot worse sweepers than in other variations. Sure. He doesn't have to go 8, it's just 1 square. If Deli goes with a 6 out, he does take 4. My guess is Smokes is intending to go in 2, just taking it. I think this holds, and I think this is cleaner than my idea in 1. I think 1-5 was very scary. Not entirely sure which card in 5. So maybe a dinosaur in 3. Maybe going 7 then 3 was the order, and that would hold. Seems like it probably would. Again, there's pretty decent margin for error, and this can look quite scary, but there's usually something that can be done. I think both games so far, first turn lost, but there was a turn 5 save. Now Dalamar's turn 5 save was very difficult to find, and he came really close to it. He went for a T that was very dangerous looking, but set up his cards well. And I was looking at another T for him, and actually his third card playing the T was the tie. But that was very hard to find. I forget what in Vid Sachi. It might have been pretty hard as well. And the move Sachi made on turn 5 looked like a very normal, effective move and happened to lose. But I think there were ties in both games so far on turn 5. I think. Now, turn 5 is very hard to calculate out to the end of the game from. I'm not saying, if someone was tied on turn 5, they should be able to hold. Turn 5 is outside the human calculating everything range. Yeah. So not saying this should have been found, but saying there's usually, even if the first 2 turns go badly for you, there's going to be at least a one way to hold. Almost inevitably. Unless you did something really ridiculous that we haven't, we're probably not going to see in the second round of the tournament, and certainly haven't seen so far. So, margin for error is big. But finding the right move on turn 5 can be tricky. I think this one, Deli is safe. I think he's choosing between which way to pressure. But I could be wrong. It could be more dangerous than I think. But this is the turn you got to be really careful on first turn. Because this is the turn you screw it up, the game's over. That's obvious. I'm not saying things that are very insightful, but it's the one turn where the margin for error might be small if something's gone wrong in the previous turns. It does depend on hands, though. Some hands and some hand matchups are probably going to see more difficulty. I like Smokes. Actually, come to think of it, Smokes very specifically reacted to the problem he saw. He saw 7714 sweeps me. I'm having trouble with sevens to the left, sevens to the right. Sixes to the right would be effective, and immediately moved in, switched to a hand with 2 6s to the right, and has played them immediately. Which is very clearly, I think, an adjustment and specifically trying to target Deli's hand. I'm going to start putting in the game. Delial SirSmokes, 91126, 26634. Smokes is a creative type, 41579, 36727. And now we will see what Deli did. Yeah, he does go 1, 66361. I'm assuming 23672, but one problem with that is Dinosaur landing in 5 is not that great because it sets up 7714. So actually, this was a dumb assumption. Or was it? 2367 and 2 goes up 5-5. They go 1. Deli goes 1. He goes up 6-4. You go 5. You flip 3 things. You go up 7-3. Deli flips 2 back. Okay, 5-5. That is a tie. There are choices, though. You might be able to start in 8, though I don't think you want to. Because if you go in 8, you lose 5, and 7714 again kind of sweeps you. But you still probably hold. Yeah. Yeah, nothing has gone so wrong for either player that there is significant danger here. Most lines should tie. For instance, 7714 and 8, 3674 and 5, Deli leads 6-4, but there's multiple ways to double capture in 2, that's a tie. If 7714 and 5 is a reply to 8, then 2367 is a double capture, that's a tie. If you go in 2 or 3, then 7236 and 5 is at least a tie. So 8 ties. If you go 2367 and 2, which is I suspect the move we're about to see, then it's 5-5. If Deli goes in 3, it's 6-4. You have a triple capture in 5 to lead 7-3. Deli can only have a double capture back. It's a tie. If Deli goes in 8, um, if Deli goes in 8, I guess it depends which card he puts there, but let's say he goes 7-7-1-4 in 8 in reply. I think you go 3. So we have 2-3-6-7-2. 7-7-1-4-8 is the trickiest move. No, I guess you just still go 5. I was thinking you only capture 2 things, not 3, but you only need to capture 2 things, not 3. So yeah, there's many ties everywhere. So big margin of error. Deli got in some trouble game 1, but not enough to be to lose. And Smokes and Deli handled this game better, I think, and played really the first just balanced first turn game we've seen. I'm not sure first turn's a disadvantage, right? We haven't seen something like I wanted Tonberry in 1. We haven't seen how a game starting with something like Tonberry in 1 would go. It might turn out to be a pretty good move. It might not. Hard to say. I think Smokes could have considered playing in 1 instead of 4. But actually, that probably gets a worse version of the game. Yeah, probably gets a worse version of the game. We see 3-6-7-4 and 2, 7-2-3-6 and 5, 7-7-1-4-8, which gets the plus, but not enough because it's 7-3. And we have another 5-5 tie. Deli used the same hand. Deli is a person who sticks with hands. If he decides he likes the feel of it, he's usually going to stick with it, at least for a while. SirSmokes, we can see here, attempted to target it a bit with the 6s to the right, but usually if Deli thinks a hand is fine, it is fine, and usually Deli isn't too concerned about having like one direction they have a number that's tricky for him. Something like that, usually he'll manage it fine, and he's not overly concerned with adjusting to that, which is interesting. I tend to freak out in those spots and really try to adjust. All right, we'll call it there. 2 ties. It's going to be a tough rule set to win, but again, if anyone can do it, it is Smokes, but the question is who he will win the game for. Yeah. There's also the question of if one of them can find a significant hand advantage. And I do think the thing Delial is doing of starting in 6 when he has sweepers on the left row is this really interesting strategy, right? Where it's saying if I start in 6, there's a very good chance that 3 and 9 fill up and the right fills up, and I'm going to have these dominant up-down cards on the left in the remaining space. Really interesting side starter strategy. And we have now seen 4 side starters out of 4 games on this rule set, which is also quite interesting and not what I would have predicted at all. This is not how I would start on this rule set, and it is not a rule set I would seriously consider that. So it is very interesting to see it be the absolutely dominant choice. I'm not saying this to say like I am right, people are wrong. I'm saying it's just really interesting to me because it's something that my instincts do not suggest at all.